Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is H.L. Ackerman. I have a degree in publishing, and this year I've been working on writing a new book. Now, last we left off, I had just sent it off to beta readers, so that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're new here, you may not know that I just finished writing a manuscript over the summer, and that manuscript is called Villain Theory. Ta-da! It is my fourth manuscript I've finished, and I am currently preparing this story to send to literary agents in the new year. That involves getting some early reader feedback, getting some revisions in, and then also preparing some query materials so that I can start querying literary agents in January. Now, in order to do that, we have a lot of work that leads up to the querying process, and I'm walking you through that piece by piece. So if that sounds good to you and you are in the same boat, or you're just someone who's interested in seeing how an aspiring author with a publishing background goes about trying to find a literary agent and eventually find a traditional publishing deal, then you're in the right place. So let's get started. Now, I've come to find over the past couple months of doing just one YouTube video a month that I really like doing a reflection at the beginning of each video, kind of catching you up to where my mind is at and how I'm approaching these next steps in my publishing journey. If you're not someone who's interested in that reflection, go ahead and skip to the beta reading part of the video. There are timestamps below to make that really easy for you. But for the rest of you, thanks for coming by and spending a few minutes with me as we talk about how this publishing process looks month to month. I know personally I have benefited greatly and learned a lot from watching the journey of other people, and I think that is why I like to spend so much time reflecting. It's December, so that means that we are reflecting on the entire year, where we started, where we're ending now, and where we're headed into the new year. My life looks completely different than it did 12 months ago. In January, I was back in my corporate job. In February, I was still working my corporate job. And then at the end of February, I finally handed in my resignation and transitioned to staying at home with my little guy. I became a stay-at-home mom. There were also a lot of things happening in my little creative brain. I could not stop thinking about this particular story idea, the story idea that sparked Villain Theory. I could see that it had a foundation to stand on, that there were clear characters, a clear plot, lots of conflict, and lots of opportunity to explore questions and really just create something that at least I would enjoy and find very entertaining. And that is where I decided in March that I was going to prepare a new system of writing and tracking and working through a book. I sat down and I made my entire novel workbook to help keep me organized because I am not a type A person. I'm very much type B. I break streaks. I miss deadlines. I don't always keep to my routines. I have a lot of chaotic energy that I float around with, and that is something that has always brought about a lot of challenge in my creative process. So I built this workbook that would be very flexible for me. It would keep all of my learning and lessons and everything that I wanted to know, all of my notes about how to create a good story right there at the forefront of my mind, so that whenever I needed a piece of my learning, a piece of my own experiences to reflect on and come back to, it was all right there in the workbook. I got that done in March, launched it in April, and immediately started my birthday book challenge using this workbook. On average, we wrote over 3,000 words every week. We hit my 90,000 word goal a month early. Then I got to take a break from the manuscript just as I had wanted, and that break happened to line up with going on my dream vacation with my husband. We went to the Scottish Highlands. What an incredible experience, getting to explore all of these crumbling castles and the mystical Isle of Skye. I am very, very grateful that I had those experiences. That is not a typical experience in my life. Hitting that goal was amazing. And then going on that trip was amazing. Then we came back from Scotland and I started getting into revision territory. I set a new goal to revise my rough draft, my first draft, over the course of October and November. In November, my beta readers finally received my manuscript, which is still very rough, very underdeveloped, and they have been beyond fantastic. I gave them an extended window for reading because it is over the holidays, and they were still so kind as to offer up some time to read through it and offer their critical feedback. This has been some of the most useful and insightful feedback that I have ever gotten. And now it is December, this week is Christmas, and then next week is New Year's, and we're ending the year so strong. I'm just amazed by how much we accomplished this year. And it really did not feel like a lot most days. There were a couple weeks, like when we had to move in the middle of July, that felt like a lot, and I did not get a lot of writing done. A couple weeks where I think I hit 5,000 or 6,000 words, and it felt like my brain was toast because I wrote so much. All of those imperfect days, working and working and working and getting up and trying again and thinking about stories and reading stories to my son and going back to the basics of story structure and what it is that makes us feel something when we are reading or experiencing. All of that has come together into me becoming a better writer, and it has been so incremental. And I think it's important to take time to reflect on these big efforts you make over time. And it's one of the reasons why I love marathon projects so much, is because you get to look at the juxtaposition of you at the start and you at the finish. It's your own novel. You're writing about yourself. You get to see your own character, the story of you as you grow and change, and as you make little daily decisions, and as you adjust your habits. You are becoming a new person. And in this case, when we're talking about publishing and storytelling, you are becoming a better storyteller by sitting down and making time to write your own stories, to experiment and find out what kind of words live in your own mind. I just think that's incredible. I think there are very few things in our lives, aside from perhaps very deep meditation, very few other things that can really get us to explore our own psyche in this way. And as someone who just really loves the field of psychology and thinking about the psyche of the person, this has been a fantastic experiment and study in long-term goals, delayed gratification, and incremental growth. Making time for quiet things like writing a book can be so beneficial. And then you sit here at the end of the year and you think about all that you've done, you count up your accomplishments. I hope you feel blown away, because I am blown away by all that I've accomplished. I'm so much further along than I thought I would be. I'm ending the year with a book that did not exist 12 months ago. Pretty amazing. So yeah, there's my spiel for you. Now let's get on and talk about the current step that I'm in, beta reading, early reader feedback, and all that entails, because oh my gosh, you guys, it can be a really hard thing to do, and we're gonna do it together so that it's a little bit less hard. So let's talk about beta reading. When you send a manuscript to early readers, especially for the first time, ideally you are hoping to get back critical feedback. Many of you may not have gotten critical feedback on your writing since senior year English literature, and that's okay. Everybody starts somewhere. It can be really hard to get critical feedback on your work, especially when it comes to novel writing and creative writing. This is an art form that takes from the deepest parts of us and requires us to be masters of storytelling and of framing an abstract or obscure idea into a digestible format, aka giving something a start, a middle, and an end, giving us a plot and a conflict that hooks us, and a character to see that plot and conflict through, a character that can experience and model for us the emotions that result as a part of that conflict. All of that comes from our own experiences, our own lived knowledge, and then you're giving it to early readers. Once you have a draft that you feel is decent enough that there's something of a story there, now it's time to share it and get your first reader reactions. Early readers have this superpower where they can look at a manuscript, they can read through an early draft of a book, and they know right away when something's wrong. They have great instincts for asking questions, guessing plot twists, and really helping you to answer questions in your manuscript that you didn't even know were left hanging. These are just a few of the reasons why you want early readers to look at your manuscript, regardless of whether you're going for traditional publishing or independent publishing. All of my beta readers are leaving me amazing comments that are helping me ask questions and answer questions that I was not aware of. There is a scene that I added in that I thought was so solid, and it is a mess and confusing. And then there was an entire chapter that I was so stressed would be confusing or anticlimactic or very stereotypical, and all of my beta readers loved this chapter. And so I've been very surprised by a lot of the reader reactions, which is a great thing. Now, just as much as there are great pieces of feedback where they're saying that they loved it, there are also so many comments and so many highlights of areas that are confusing, pull them out of the story, or are boring, or just don't make sense to the reader. This is the golden piece of beta reading, is those critical comments. Practice makes perfect, and you will get better at receiving and implementing feedback with time. You just have to take the leap and send it out first. In middle school, I started my first middle grade length manuscript and finished it at 50,000 words. I think I finished it when I was like 13 or so. And then my second novel, which was, I think, a really heavily influenced Twilight fanfic, I wrote that one over the course of high school. So I finished that one when I was like 17. And both of those manuscripts were very instrumental in helping shape me as a writer, but I did not want anyone to see those. So I did not share them. They are locked away in a vault, and I still won't share them. They will never see the light of day, so don't ask. I got to college. I started in my editorial and publishing program, and I realized that I needed to fix this aversion to feedback if I was ever going to get better. It's the polishing where the depths of the story really come in for so many professional, career, lifelong authors. And I wanted to nail that down. So what did I do? Well, wrote a bunch and shared it with writing groups, one page, then one chapter at a time. And it got a little easier every time. Then I graduated my publishing program, went to a writing conference. One of my writing professors was there. I had just started writing The Girl Maid of Northstone. My professor told me that she had a new group of students coming in for her novel editing course that she taught. I took that course the previous year. I helped edit her book, which is now published, and I'm in the acknowledgements, which is really fun. But I had a manuscript that I was working on, and my professor mentioned that she needed a new manuscript to share with her students. So guess who sent the manuscript to her entire class of editing and publishing students? There were like 20 of them. Yeah, it was me. I sent it to them. 9 chapters of my manuscript to her, which she shared with her class, and 21 editing and publishing students all critiqued and edited the first 9 chapters of that book. It was a lot. I got responses all across the board. I had people who loved it and would not change a thing. And that feedback, while initially I appreciated, ended up not being very helpful. I also had people who were super overly critical and pointed out every single wrong thing and left me over 1,000 comments. That was also overwhelming because I would read through those feedback comments and feel like there was nothing salvageable about the book at all. And I found that of the 21 people who all edited the same 9 chapters, those early readers, the most effective beta readers or early readers, the most effective feedback, the most constructive feedback was that feedback which balanced positive with constructive. These were students learning about story structure and learning about how to write well, that were taking a critical eye to my work, and they were letting me know what was working well. They were also very happy to share ideas for improvement, real actionable ideas for improvement. They weren't just insults. They weren't just negative. They didn't just say it was dumb or stupid. They actually had ideas for why it wasn't working or ways to improve it. Questions I could answer. That is the point when I learned that questions and early reader feedback are everything in the revision process. And it really helped thicken up my skin. It really helped me understand what questions are absolutely crucial for early readers. And now I'm going to share all of that with you. Critical feedback can be a challenge. It definitely requires some humbling on our part as the writer, yet in the middle of it, there is also this really, really great transformation that happens. And especially when you bring in early readers, it feels like you're beginning to build your publishing team. It feels like for the first time, there are other people championing and enjoying your story. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, that's cool. I either didn't get a publishing degree or didn't have a professor offer to send my manuscript to all 21 of her editing students. So I'm going to tell you about my process of how I find and recruit beta readers and how I know if they are going to give me that golden kind of feedback, that constructive feedback that is positive and asks questions and looks at a story critically. I find beta readers first and foremost by sharing online. I know this is probably not what you're going to want to hear, or it's something that you were already expecting, so hopefully it comes as no surprise. But if you want to find and recruit good beta readers for your manuscript, you need to be willing to put yourself out there and share on social media or other online spaces, or find yourself in some kind of writing community, even if it's in person and you have an organization with monthly meetups or a local chapter of a writing organization where you can go connect with fellow authors and exchange pages. You need to connect with people. Now, word of mouth is perhaps the most powerful tool in the publishing industry. We have lots of big advertising budgets in traditional publishing. We have lots of indie authors working to get their stuff on Amazon, working on our SEO. We're trying to get our books seen, but the most powerful tool in the publishing industry by far, and what continues to drive sales, and what continues to drive success, what continues to put people on the New York Times bestsellers list, is word of mouth, book reviews, those kinds of things. So if you're talking about your book, if you're talking about your manuscript, sharing some details here and there, sharing a title announcement, having a countdown of some kind, creating a special spotlight for your characters, whatever it is, as long as you're sharing details about your book, letting people know that you're writing a book and that you need people to read it, that is the first step in finding your beta readers. Once that happens, I have a very particular process, which I will now walk you through. How I conduct my beta reading process to ensure that it is a positive experience for everyone, both betas and writers alike. This is, of course, a printed page from that workbook I was telling you about earlier. It is my writer's outline, aka a workbook and novel planning guide for the aspiring author and writers who like to write novels. So if you're interested in that, there are more details about that in the description below. Go ahead and check that out. Meanwhile, you may notice I have already checked off a majority of this checklist. So I've already done a lot of these things. I know it looks like a lot. It looks like a long checklist, but it all fits on one page. So don't get scared. It's going to be fine. Let's just go down this list here and I'll kind of explain things as I need to, but most of them are self-explanatory, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is announce that you're starting to look for alpha and beta readers. You're not going to find anyone who's interested if you never even talk about it. The way that I do this is I create a post for open call, and I just say open call for beta readers, and I let them know that I am looking for beta readers. Number 2, you're going to create an alpha or beta reader interest form to collect people's emails, get their contact information, and gauge the actual interest in who wants to read your book. Number 3, you're going to share your interest form link with your networks, whether that's in person or, on your social media channels and platforms. You just want to make sure that you are communicating what is happening when, and you're dictating all of this so it can happen on your own timeline. Work through this process as you want to with your schedule. Don't neglect the momentum of announcements, building up to something, releasing something, and then riding the wave that follows, because that is super key in generating interest and getting people to actually want to look at your stuff. Number 4, you're going to promote your interest form for 2 weeks to a month. And then on my little list here, you'll see I have little lines and checkboxes for each week of that promotion period. Week 1 promotion, I share the open call with the link to the interest form. Week 2 promotion, I send a reminder on stories or I share it as a reel because I primarily function on Instagram. Week 3 promotion, I close the form and I send out the invites to my beta readers. I also created a post that said the form is now closed, the invitations have been sent. If you filled out the form, please check your email. Just because people are not always checking their email, but they are almost always checking their social media. So that is something that I just like to make sure I've got all my bases covered. Now, week 4 of my promotion is beta reader intros. You don't have to do this. A lot of people don't, but I find that it helps make it feel more personal and more exciting when you get to see and kind of be introduced to the beta readers who are actually getting to see the story for the first time. It also helps give you credibility in the long run when you actually have real people that are reading your books that have bios and names and come from somewhere. That helps it feel real. And especially in the age of AI, I think we are going to see a surge of people who really appreciate human effort in the creative space. And so that is one more reason why I really liked to share my beta reader introduction posts. And then lots of people can interact with it and everyone can get excited. It's one more space for people to comment and share and engage. Once that promotion period has passed, then you announce again. There's lots of announcements. You announce that you have closed the form and you thank all the respondents, because anyone who shows interest in your work is a valuable person and they are giving you even more reason to keep creating, even if they weren't necessarily chosen as a beta reader. The next step, I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, you're going to sort your responses and select 3 to 5 alpha or beta readers. So you're going to go in. I like using Google Forms because you can export things to a Google Sheets. You can look at your spreadsheet of all of these answers in one place and you can determine who you think will be a good fit for your story, who is reading books in a similar genre, and who will be able to give you a good reaction to whether you're hitting your genre expectations and whether you're providing a satisfying ending for readers in your target audience. That is super key, okay? Then, number 7. You're going to email your chosen readers, congratulate them, and confirm availability. Choose alternates, so have a wait list if you can, if some have changed their mind or are no longer available. Once you've confirmed availability, the next step is to, of course, send your manuscript to early readers, either all at once or in parts. I will tell you, my 3rd manuscript, Girl Made of Northstone, I sent it to beta readers in parts, and that did not work well for me. It stretched out the process way too long because I was sending them every couple weeks. And some people were faster readers and wanted to work through it faster. And some people were slower and didn't notice the delay. And it got to the point where I spent so long putting together each manuscript and sending it out that it was tedious. And I would rather just send it out all at once. So this time around with Villain Theory, I sent my entire manuscript in one go. And that has proved much more time efficient. Then the next step, of course, is to collect feedback via survey, inline comments, or email responses. You can do it however you like best, whatever works best and makes it easiest for your beta readers. Keep in mind that they are volunteers. This is being done on their free time, and so you want to accommodate and work with whatever makes it as easy as possible for them. Then you're going to thank your alphas or betas privately and profusely, and optionally, on your public social media accounts. I am very much a public-facing writer. I like to thank and show appreciation to my beta readers in public. So of course, I did make a post thanking them in the early stages, and I will probably make another post thanking them again because that's all you can do as a writer. When someone is reading your work, all you can do is say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Then the next step is to review reader feedback, identifying common themes and pain points for a majority of your readers. Implement suggestions as you see fit, ensuring that they don't strip the story of your unique voice or introduce new plot holes, errors, etc. Okay? Now there's a note here at the bottom of this page. It says that authors sometimes feel overwhelmed when receiving feedback from a group of multiple peers and early critical readers. Keep in mind that all feedback shared with you is subjective and opinion-based, and you are not expected to implement every suggestion. It's also important to remember that if your readers are asking questions about plot twists early on, that can be a good sign. Sometimes it's best to keep them guessing as long as their questions are answered in the end. There's also 2 extra little check boxes at the very bottom that say optional second round, select 3 to 5 new beta readers from among your respondents, and repeat your communication pattern, confirming availability, sending your manuscript, and collecting feedback if you want to do more than 1 round of beta readers. I know many indie authors who prefer to do that. If you're going for a traditional publishing deal and you're planning to query agents, you may not need to do this because once you get in with an agent and if you land a book deal, you are going to go on to a developmental editor who will also provide a lot of feedback. But it can be good for rejuvenating. I just don't want you to get stuck in the over editing loophole, because that is a time loop that many a writer has been stuck in and never seen the light of day again. So make sure that you are pacing yourself. Make sure you are prepared for constructive critical feedback. I will go ahead and put up on the screen the questions that I asked in my interest form to help gauge which beta readers were going to provide me with the most valuable feedback, and then choosing 3 to 5 from there. I chose 5 and they have all been fantastic. Every single one of them has been so great. And I would say don't do more than 3 to 5. Try to go for an odd number to prevent ties, and don't do more than 5, because with Girlmaid of Northstone, I was sending out my manuscript in parts. I also sent it out to 10 beta readers, and that was so overwhelming. There was so much feedback to go through, so varied. I sent it to friends, family members, and strangers alike. I sent it in part. All of those things I would change. And I have changed with Villain Theory and this beta reading process. I have made sure to be very communicative with my beta readers, and they have been just fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about them. I'm so grateful for them. If you take nothing else away from today's video, I hope that you understand that the most important part of successful beta reading is communication. All of these things are really good growing experiences for writers and will prove to make all the difference in the world for your stories. I hope that this is something that we can do as authors to provide great reader experiences, even with rough drafts, even before we're published. I hope that you also can have a really positive experience either as a writer who's looking for feedback or as a beta reader who is providing that essential feedback to writers. Please know that you are so essential and your time is deeply appreciated. If no one else has told you, let me tell you, it is so appreciated, and the story and the work will be all the better for your efforts, and I thank you for that sincerely. If you liked this video and you found it really helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know so that I can continue to make more videos like this that kind of give you a peek behind the scenes of how I'm preparing for queries. Next month, we are in fact going to be talking about my query package and how I have prepared to send out my first queries. Maybe we will even click the query button together. Very exciting things in the works for 2026. Follow me on my other social media platforms. And if you want a more in-depth look at the reflection of how my year has gone, as well as the #1 storytelling lesson that I learned this year, be sure to check it out on my Substack. Whatever holiday you're celebrating, may it be happy and filled with loved ones close by and all of your favorite traditions, and I will see you in the new year.